West Side Decorating Center. And good morning to you on a beautiful sunny Tuesday morning. Not so much on the thermometer, but at least looking outside, it's nice and sunny. Thermometer right now is anything but. It's about 27 degrees in Saginaw. And this hour is open. Whatever you'd like to chat about at 989-752-6111. Next hour, we're going to welcome our colleague Christiana Malacara to be with us. She's won a couple of awards from the MAB, but she's also involved in a lot of activities in the community we want to talk to her about. And at 11 o'clock, we're going to learn about something called Bringing Back the 80s Festival. That'll be at 11 on Focus. But again, for this hour, it is open phones, 989-752-6111. Supreme Court was busy yesterday. By a 5-4 vote, they supported the president's ability to deport the Venezuelan gang members. However, with one caveat, and that is that they now must have a court hearing of some kind, so there is some kind of due process. They also ruled on a Supreme Court challenge to New York State gun limits. They refused to hear the case. They turned that challenge away. It had to do with New York firearms restrictions that were adopted right after the original previous limits on carrying concealed handguns were struck down. They declined to hear the appeal by 6 New York residents. We'll get into that a little bit later, too. But we've got callers lined up and waiting, so let's get to it this morning. We begin with Earl in Saginaw. Good morning, Earl.
Good morning, sir. How long would it take you to fly to Mars right now? You have any idea?
Months, I'm assuming. I don't know.
Yeah, nine months. But starting next year, you will be able to go to Mars in 90 days. Reason being, our favorite Trump advisor, his company is building an aircraft that they're going to launch next day that will travel at 38,000 miles an hour. I thought maybe you'd like to be the reporter on the trip.
Yeah. Let's wait till they perfect it.
Oh, he doesn't do anything that's not perfected, but I thought you'd enjoy that. So I'm starting your day off.
Yeah, you listen, sir. I'll tell you what. If I were 50 years younger, I would jump on the opportunity.
Hey, you're as young as you sound, and you don't sound 82 years old like your friend with the washing machine says you are. But that's okay.
Yeah.
Talk to you later, sir.
All right, Earl. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
And we go to Bay City. We talk to Kim. Good morning, Kim.
Good morning, Art. Hey, I am livid after seeing the video from the Bay County Commission meeting last night, Bay City Commission meeting. There's absolute zero decorum in those meetings anymore. I actually sent the video in an email I didn't send the whole meeting, but the portion that has me very upset to Charlie. But people in the background allowed to wave signs and try to distract the person that's talking. But one gentleman, he should have been escorted out by the police, and he should never, ever be allowed at the microphone again. Vulgar language, F-bombs, saying the Lord's name in vain with an F-bomb in the middle of it, and then ending by, he kept saying Timmy Benton, like he's supposedly a teacher, doesn't even realize it's Timmy Beeson, but that he hopes he chokes on a bag of male body parts.
Why was he talking about him at a city meeting? I mean, Timmy's a state rep. What's that got to do with the city?
He said that he was blackmailing our mayor because it upheld the mayor's veto of the resolution, but absolutely disgusting. And no consequences for him.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of the language and stuff. He should be excluded. Absolutely. As far as the sign waving goes, I'm a little more tolerant of that, mainly because as long as they stay where they are and they don't disrupt, they just wave the signs, it's free speech. And one of the great things about
close enough to the person
it doesn't
speaking,
matter.
though, that's distracting.
It doesn't matter. I mean, free speech is free speech. It's not to say it's without consequence. It's not to say that you're guaranteed an audience. But in a public setting, in a governmental setting like that, it's one of those things where you have to just say, well, okay, it's signs are signs, and you're only distracted if you want to be. And they still voted, and they still got it. They got the vote done one way or another.
They did.
Whether
it
you
looks
agree.
like they're running a circus, though, and they're not in charge of the circus. It's just a circus.
Yeah,
terrible.
unfortunately,
Terrible.
Fortunately, a lot of meetings have gotten that way. Not a lot, but there are a number that have gotten that way, and it's unfortunate. But again, the guy with the F-bombs out, but the signs, got to be a little more tolerant about some stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, but at least
Okay.
I was glad to see they voted the way they voted.
Same. And I applauded the mayor for that, but he also got an earful from me this morning about lack of order and decorum.
Yeah, that's good.
Terrible.
You should hear that.
Yeah.
You have that right the same way they had theirs. I mean, that's fine. I think that speaking up when you see something in government you don't like is exactly what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay,
Kim,
I
very
appreciate the opportunity to vent.
That's what we're here for, Kim. Anytime.
All right, thank
Take
you.
care. Bye-bye now.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
And in Saginaw, we find Paul this morning. Morning, Paul.
Morning, Art. Art, as you've heard in the news recently, that the president is slapping these tariffs on other nations to rectify our trade imbalance, as well as bring American manufacturers back to this country for jobs. Well, I have a different solution than the president. I'll give you an example. My semi-truck driver friend who works on a 1099, he gets paid 59 cents a mile, which is nothing more than piece rate driving. So, and back in the 40s through the early 60s, we had piece rate manufacturing here in America. So if our manufacturers, and especially our unions, would bring back piece rate manufacturing, where you get paid by the piece that you produce, we could bring back overseas manufacturing back to the USA right now and do it a lot cheaper than what they do it today.
Well, let me tell you the problem with that.
Let me finish one line.
Go ahead.
All right. And wages and prices would rise and fall with supply and demand. So go ahead.
Here's the problem. The problem is quality control. And always has been.
Well, with quality control, if you produce a bad piece, it's thrown away as scrap and subtracted from your good pieces.
That's right.
That's how it used to be.
So you have to have extra bodies just to do that. It sounds well, yeah, but there's creating jobs, and then there's creating jobs that are productive and add to society, and then there's creating jobs just to create jobs. And I've always had that hesitancy about piece rate. And I understand it. And the thing about you said 59 cents a mile is piece rate driving, but it's a little bit different.
Well, that's a 1099. They still that's a semi truck driver.
He owns the semi. He owns the semi then.
No, he does not. He works for the company.
Then he shouldn't be 1099. He should be a wage, or even if it's piece rate.
He had a choice. He had a choice to get a hourly rate or a piece rate, and
but it
he
doesn't
chose
matter.
that.
It doesn't matter. It still should be an employee, not a 1099. whether he gets paid by the mile or whether he gets paid by the hour or any combination thereof, shouldn't matter. He's an employee of the company, should be treated like one. Unless he owns the rig and is booking his own, he should be an employee of the company. And I can tell you that from when I had my bus driving license and I had my tour company, because I had a contract with a local company, and when I drove, I was paid by the mile and hours.
Well, on his 1099, he still has to take out Social Security taxes, which is 15% every check.
Yeah, he has to do it on his own.
Right, he's got to do it on his own, and he's got to do federal, state, and city income tax withholding.
Yeah, but
here's the beauty of his 1099 employment. See, he can pick and choose when he wants to work, how much he wants to work, et cetera, et cetera. He's got a lot more freedom
he's a contract
than an employee.
Then he's a contract employee.
Correct. He's
a contractor. That's different.
Correct.
So but still, I just,
you ask your buddy there, Dr. Tim Nash at Northwood, if Piece Rate Manufacturing would bring all those overseas manufacturers back to the U.S.
Right, I will.
And back in the 40s, 50s, and early 60s, factories that had piece rate manufacturing, a lot of those employees actually made more money on piece rate than they would if they got paid by the hour.
Yep. All right. Good enough, Paul.
So, all right.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
Later.
Take
Bye.
a break. We'll be back. Scott, hang on. You'll be next.
Warmer weather is hopefully on its way.
Out in my yard, I planted a bunch of perennials over the years, and I know I get more and more of the butterflies coming in. And the butterflies sleep on these flowers in the open air at night. And then you get the mosquito control guy who comes by spraying. We close our windows. What's this do to the butterflies?
Nothing.
You don't think so?
No, the product they use is breed specific.
Then why am I closing my window?
Well,
I mean,
because you don't like maybe you don't like the odor, the whatever,
I don't know. I hope you're right.
Yeah, it won't hurt the butterflies.
I hope, actually. I know, they do. I get them in here. They'll stay here for 3, 4, 5 days resting and eating on the flowers.
Wow, you're lucky to have them. That's great.
Well, I hope we can keep them. That's
you will. You will.
All right, I'll talk to you.
Take care. Bye-bye now. And in Thomas Township, we've got Mike this morning. Mike, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Art. Two things. One, about that butterfly deal and spraying. Years back, I had a fellow that was the head of the DNR out of St. Charles living a few houses down from me, and he would just simply not let them spray by his house because they do kill other things other than just mosquitoes. And now they may have changed the spray. I'm not going to say they didn't. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the news media still isn't doing us any favors by, these, I don't even know what to call it, expressions of rage against Tesla.
I call it criminal.
Like glorify. Pardon?
I call it criminal.
Well, it sure is, but they won't say anything about, that. They just seem like they glorify it. It's always, they've reacted against Tesla. They won't say that they destroyed their, that place is burning. They do.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you there because I've seen on the national media images of the cars burning and the stories. I saw stories of the arrest of the one guy. So they've done it. I mean, do they do it maybe as much as Fox or others? Maybe not, but they still do it because I've seen it there.
Well, that's true, but I'd still like to see it. I don't know why we hate this country so. As some people hate the country so much that they've got to have this, like people getting beat down because they're in a Tesla, or not just that, but at the colleges and stuff. Why do we hate this country? This country has been.
I'll tell you why. It's not the country itself. A lot of these folks have become dependent on the government, and they're afraid that all of this is going to hurt their dependency on the government, even though they probably shouldn't be dependent on the government.
No, I think you have a very good point there. I never thought about that aspect of it, but yeah, because there was a lot of people on the dole, and of course their free stuff. Look at what they're giving to the migrants that came here.
Yep.
You know, cards and hotel rooms and whatever. Jeez. So, and I hope that they do cut back on the spending. I hope they find even more, but I'd like to see them, again, I said it before, publish who was responsible for some of these things in Congress.
Yeah. All right, well, good luck.
Yeah, I know.
All right, take care.
Take care, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Good one now.
And we'll chat with Dave in Saginaw before we have to take a break. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Art. Your previous caller with the trucking and the piecework and all that stuff, this is kind of related in a way, I think. I worked for Saginaw Steering Gear for 33 and a half years. I was a steering column repairman. I had a separate area away from the assembly line, and if that line that ran 380-some columns an hour spit out something that was not correctly assembled, either electronically or physically, with the mechanism, it was my job to go and grab that thing off of a rack with a rail on it, bring it over to my bench, and fix it so it could go in a rack as a good column.
Right.
We were considered non-value employees because the company expected every part to come off that line 100% right. If it didn't, if it had any kind of a defect, our job was specifically to fix it and make it so it could go into a car.
Right.
But we were always considered non-value employees.
Because you didn't
and
make
their
it.
Goal,
yeah.
Their goal was to get 100% so they could get rid of us.
Yeah.
So your point about the guys that would have to check the piecework, to make sure that the parts were good, was right on the money.
Yep.
It would cost the company more to do it, just like it did GM to pay us.
Yeah. Yeah, those were the days when some of the supervision turned blind eyes, too, so they could meet quotas.
Absolutely. And I can tell you for a fact that there were times when certain manufacturing operations in Lansing or Jackson, Michigan, that built certain models of GM cars got racks of steering columns that had some defective parts on them. And I won't name names, but the chief inspector of Plant 6 at that time allowed for those red tags to be pulled because the car company was waiting for those parts.
Yep.
And to shut a line down would cost too much. And his position was if it drops out when they put it in a car, they can fix it.
Yeah. Heard those stories.
Yeah.
All right,
well,
Dave. We thank you for what you did anyway. We think you had value. All right.
Okay,
take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. We'll be back.
Steve, did you take...
Revised their law that has a long-standing requirement that the applicant be in good moral character, as the judgment used, so that the use of the firearm doesn't endanger themselves or someone else. And it's pretty generic in its language. Also made it a crime to carry firearms in various sensitive locations, which, by the way, we have here in Michigan. It's the same thing, including government buildings, schools, healthcare facilities, theaters, bars, polling places, and Manhattan's Times Square, mainly because of just the sheer number of people, I guess. But the Supreme Court has said that they will not take a look at that challenge and allow the law to stand. Here's Carl in Saginaw. Good morning, Carl.
Good morning, Art. You were talking about bringing manufacturing back to the United States. To build a factory, to design the factory, buy the land, build the factory, fill it with machinery, hire the people, that takes years to do something like that.
Yep, but you know what? You know what? Every day you delay it, it takes an extra day.
Yes, but if you're the CEO of, Ford, how do you know that Trump isn't going to change his mind in 3 months or in 6 months or a year from now?
How do you ever know that in business?
Well, there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the business world.
Yeah.
They don't know what to plan on. And that put a damper on investment, in hiring, in planning. How can you plan right now?
Same way you've done it all your entire career as an executive of a company. And they seem to do it pretty well. They've done it through uncertain times, and they've done it through certain times. That's what they get paid for.
Well, you said before, I think there's a reason why we buy stuff from overseas.
Yeah,
and
we
have a choice in this country. We don't have to buy. Yes, we don't have to buy cheap stuff from China, but we choose to do that as consumers, don't we?
Yep, we do, and it's cost us.
Well, it's going to cost us.
It's cost us jobs, hasn't it? It cost us jobs, didn't it?
If we want to make stuff here, are we willing to pay, like twice as much for a washing machine? Or twice as much, another $10,000 for a car? Are we willing to pay those prices?
Probably when you don't have a choice, yeah. But that's beside the point. The other thing that may happen, is that prices don't get higher because the other countries may choose to change that, lower the prices, and not fight the tariff. Listen, so far from what I heard yesterday, and I heard two different numbers, and it increased as the day went on. It started with 50. The last I heard, it is up to 70 countries that have notified the White House they want to sit down and negotiate. So if that happens, and they all negotiate, and the tariffs neutralize, more power to him.
That's a lot of moving pieces.
Well, government is a lot of moving pieces. Government's a lot of moving pieces every day.
Yeah.
Our lives are moving pieces. What's that got to do with it? Of course there's moving pieces.
You were talking yesterday with Dr. Nash about targeted tariffs can be beneficial, but a blanket tariff on just like everywhere, that's just going to put a damper on investment.
Yeah, it has.
Hiring.
I don't disagree with that. But like I've said before, I don't agree with 100% of everything he does. I don't agree with 100% of anything anybody does. Sometimes I don't agree with 100% of what I do.
Well, he hasn't really expressed, what the end game is going to be here, what his goal.
That's funny. I've heard him express it.
The tariffs are going to be in place and they're going to raise a lot of money, or are the tariffs going to just a negotiating tool? And
I think they're going to be a bunch of things. I think they're going to be a negotiating tool. I think they will raise some money, and I think they will bring some manufacturing back to this country. But time will tell, and as I said, he's got 6 months to prove it.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see what happens.
I think in 6 months we're going to be seeing higher prices in the stores.
Well, see, I'm willing to wait the 6 months to see rather than speculate.
Well, Art, every person who calls in here speculates on what's going to happen.
That's true. That doesn't mean I have to.
I mean,
doesn't mean I have to.
Well, no, but
that's it.
You seem a little reluctant to speculate in some areas and not others.
Well, that may be, but that's me. My choice.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Good enough. Got to go, Carl.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye now. We'll be back.
Thanks.
Let me take a moment to talk about Quick Lane Freeland next to my car dealer, McDonald Ford. You hear me talk about them all the time because it's a great place. It's a one-stop shop for all your routine maintenance. Quick Lane Freeland, where they do oil changes, brakes, batteries, and, of course, tires, which we'll talk about. But just a reminder, they work on all makes and models of cars and keep them in tip-top shape. Now, tires, as you've heard me telling you, they are selling new tires for just $5 over cost. And these are brand names: Goodyear, BF Goodrich, Michelin. Plus, there's a plus. Some of these tires carry an additional $60 to $100 in rebates. Now, there is extra for installation, including balancing and lifetime tire repairs. And they have a wonderful customer lounge with internet, free ice cream bars, all waiting for you at Quick Lane Freeland next to McDonald Ford. And, as I've also said, if you're in the market for a new or previously owned vehicle, stop in and visit them at McDonald Ford. Quick Lane Freeland, right next to McDonald Ford in Freeland.
Claw your way to cash and prizes.
Hey, Art, how you doing?
Good. You must be driving.
Hey, yeah, I am. In response to Carl's comment, and I like yours, that as far as being in business, like, I don't care if you're CEO of Ford or whatever large business, you don't know what the future is. I've been in business for 35 years, and probably 30 of those years are uncertainty. You know, it's what you do with your business and the changes you make, and you have to make them sometimes quickly, and that's where I think Trump is, trying to make it better for everybody.
Yeah, I totally agree with, running a business is it's a gamble. It's a gamble with your money, and it's a gamble with your time and with other people's lives. And if you do it right, you are rewarded. But it's a day-to-day thing, and you can't take your foot off the gas.
Well, not everybody's willing to take the chances either.
That's true.
So when they get mad when someone is successful in taking the chance, but they don't know the sleepless nights they went through when they were taking that chance, what the outcome would be, and if it's good, then, you got people that are mad, they're making too much money, whatever. And so it's just, everyone's got the opportunity to take the chance.
Let me define something and see if you agree with me. The name for all of those people that aren't willing to take the chance, they're called employees. Where would they be without those people who took the chance?
Right.
So
I mean, we're here to provide. My job is to provide for other families that are working for me. So I mean, that's my responsibility.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
So,
all right, friend. Good luck.
Right, thank you, Art. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Yes,
Last call is going to be Terry in Bay City. Terry, good morning.
Hey, Art. Hey, I'm going to talk about something that very few people mention that I think is it sounds pretty negative, but I think it's a fact, at least from what I've seen, is that you're going to have a hard time finding people that want to work.
Yeah. Today that is so true.
And like where I work, the guy hires people over 50 because they want to work. And what's going to happen when us old timers are gone? You got to instill some work ethic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they're going to have to do because there's a generational problem with people that just don't want to work.
You are absolutely right. I trace it back to the 60s because generation after generation, we haven't taught young people how to be parents who don't know how then to raise their kids. And and I've said many times, I was very young when I graduated high school. I was 16. The day I graduated high school, I got home, and on the dining room table were New York City work papers for me, filled out by my father, and the address of the job he had already gotten me that started on that Monday. There was no loafing. This is what it means to be working. This is what it means to earn your income, what you owe your employer, what they owe you, and that was my life's lesson. You don't do that anymore. And that's a broad, a lot of people do. It's a broad brush because not everybody is like that. But
Right. But I just hope they can find more because it's, bring it back.
Amen.
Because that's huge.
Amen.
It's a huge problem. And then keeping and retaining people, too, is a big one.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Terry. Well, listen, I appreciate the call. Have a great day.
Okay.
Take care.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
All right, that'll do it. We'll take our break and tell you what's ahead coming up.
Looking for signs and graphics of all...
Broadcasting from the